about the federal budget and its impact on federal employees and retirees. I'm joined by Jessica Clement of the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association. Jessica, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Carton, thanks for having me.
Starting out, we know the big 30,000-foot impact of the president's budget, which came out yesterday. They're going to take out $4 billion in spending that had been allocated towards federal employee and retiree systems, the FERS system. Can you talk about, though, if we're breaking it down on a granular level, what does that impact mean for an individual retiree?
Sure. So you want to focus on retirees first, because the budget hits CSRS and FERS, both employees and retirees, in mostly the same manner, although it does have a greater impact on the FERS employees than it does on the remaining CSRS employees. So if you look at the FERS system, for the current FERS retirees, the budget proposal eliminates COLAs altogether. No more cost of living adjustments if you are a current FERS retiree. So let's say you retire tomorrow and the average FERS annuity is $13,000 a year, this incredibly generous benefits package they have at $13,000. You will be receiving $13,000 for the remainder of your lifetime.
Wow. And in talking about the COLA, OMB Director Mick Mulvaney said yesterday the reason why that they were eliminating that out of the planning was because there was a Social Security network that FERS employees were already enrolled in that already included a COLA. But does that extend across all FERS employees? Are there gaps in that? And does that make up for the elimination in the budget?
So FERS employees, unlike CSRS employees, did contribute to Social Security when they were working. So they do receive the Social Security COLA every year as well. But the FERS retirement, Social Security, and the TSP were all part of their benefits package when they came into civil service. And part of that package was cost of living adjustments for both your pension and Social Security. I think one of the reasons that the administration is doing this is because the private sector is moving away from defined benefit plans. And that's certainly a conversation we can have. Do defined benefit plans make sense for government employees? But if you're approaching elimination of COLAs because defined benefit plans don't exist in the private sector much anymore, which is arguable to begin with, then you're really just punishing those who have federal service. I don't think the Social Security argument that the director made carries much weight. This is a benefits package, especially for the current retirees, that's simply punitive and punishing them for having federal service.
Well, and that's another thing Mulvaney did say yesterday, that the move was trying to shift federal retirement closer to what's going on in terms of trends in the private sector. Now, we've heard a lot of talk about trying to make federal budgets, federal benefits, federal salaries closer to what the private sector markets are doing right now. Does this provide any kind of a trade-off for federal employees? Is this something that they stand to gain on, or would you need to see something like a federal salary increase that matches what you're seeing in the private sector to make it all balance out?
So the two positives that were in the federal budget proposed by the Trump administration yesterday were a 1.9% pay raise for federal employees, which had already been released publicly. That tracks with statutory policy that says federal pay raises should be the employment cost index minus 0.5%. The employment cost index ending September of last year was 2.4%. Minus 0.5% is 1.9. And then the budget does contain a paid parental leave policy of 6 weeks for the entire country. That would extend to federal employees as well. So those are the two positives we've seen. But if you're going to eliminate an entire leg of the three-legged stool of retirement, such as eliminating the defined benefit plan, because that's the way private sector companies are going, then it should be coupled with a conversation about the federal government's contributions towards the thrift savings plan. I think that would be the discussion. But that's not the discussion we're having. The discussion we're having is eliminating COLAs because the private sector, according to Mulvaney, is moving away from defined benefit plans. That's not a conversation about what the private sector is doing. That's not a fair trade-off. Just because one group is moving away from defined benefit plans doesn't mean you eliminate COLAs for those that still do have that defined benefit plan. I would argue that there's probably more employers out there with DB plans than the administration likes to admit. Also, I think we as a country, Congress, the administration, should be asking themselves what they want from our government. Do you want government to be the leader in providing and setting standards for providing benefits to employees, or do you want to participate in this race to the bottom? And eliminating an entire leg of a retirement goal is a race to the bottom.
And then in talking about the past 2 years, can you still hear me? Sorry.
I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. Microphone trouble, folks. In the past 2 years, we've had issues with COLA in talking about the specific group of retirees, the hold harmless ones, that are normally covered in their Medicare insurance coverage by a COLA increase. Now, what would be the impact in the case of this proposal where COLAs would be completely eliminated? How are their premiums affected?
That's a good question. So those who are affected by the hold harmless provision, those are individuals who pay their Medicare Part B premiums from something other than a Social Security check. So those individuals who are impacted by that provision are your CSRS retirees. They're not the FERS retirees that we've been talking about. So looking now at what the budget does to CSRS retirees, the budget proposes lowering the COLAs by 0.5%. So if you take 2017, for example, the COLA this year was 0.3%. Under this scenario, under the budget proposal, CSRS retirees would have seen zero COLA because 0.3 minus 0.5%, is negative. So if you were looking at, say, a year where there was a 2% COLA, FERS retirees would get nothing under this proposal. CSRS retirees would get 1.5%. Very, very quickly, without COLAs, you're going to see that annuity lose value rapidly, right? Because if your Medicare premiums go up, as they do, and your FEHBP, your federal health benefits premiums go up, and gas goes up, and your electric bill goes up, and your rent goes up, and you can't keep pace with that because not only are you not getting full inflation because the seniors already argue that the formula doesn't meet their needs, now you're getting that formula minus 0.5%. Seniors are going to see their purchasing power and their quality of life decrease at a very rapid rate.
There we go. And now, finally, this budget obviously is not the final letter of the law. It's still got to go through Congress for negotiations. Do you foresee a heady conversation coming up in September? We'll have a lot on the docket already with agency reorganization, IT modernization, tax reform. It seems like it's going to be a full discussion this fall.
It will, I would argue, probably this spring, not this fall. Fiscal year 2018 starts October 1. That is, 4 or 5 months away? 4 months away. So what I think will be telling as to how Congress feels about this budget is what we see in the House budget resolution. I think we'll be seeing a House FY18 budget resolution in the coming weeks. So what proposals, if any, does the House Budget Committee take from Trump's budget and put in the House budget? That will be a clear sign of how the House Republican caucus feels about the provisions in this budget. Everything that was proposed in here as it relates to federal employees and retirees has to be legislated. The administration cannot do these things administratively or via executive order. So we'll be closely watching and advocating for federal employees and retirees in the congressional budget process.
Jessica Clement of the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Carton. It was good talking with you.
You as well. You can find more coverage of the president's budget and its impact on federal retirees at federaltimes.com. I'm Carton Cordell.